Hi, everybody. Welcome to episode 16 of All Things Metaphysical. I am here with Kelly, and I am Kale, also known as Kale. It's really healthy for you. I think that's going to be our new tagline. Yeah. So, again, we were thinking about what are we going to talk about today as we tune into another episode. And we decided that we were going to talk about or start with wonky energy. So, Kelly, what would you like to talk about the wonky energy that's hitting us all right now?
I am so sensitive that when anything happens energetically, even though most people may not be aware of it, I feel it. It's like it hits me really hard. And the last couple of days, I've been told that the reason for this wonky energy was something with sunspots. I don't keep up with sunspots, so I'm not sure that's the real reason, but it makes it really difficult to deal with many people. If you're sensitive at all, it's going to affect you.
Mhm.
This time of year, when so many people are already stressed, it just adds to that stress and anxiety. So, I think really the best thing to do if you start feeling out of sorts and you're not sure why, ground yourself.
Mhm.
And even if you're still not feeling perfect, at least you're a little bit better than you were. Usually it's energies that are fluctuating. And I think something happens when around holidays because you have so many different religions, so many different holidays during this time of year, and that amps up the energy.
Mhm.
And it doesn't really matter if there's sunspots or not, in my opinion. I think the collective energy is already
Mhm.
at such a point that, it's like one more thing and we're all going to crash kind of thing.
It,
Um,
rem- it reminds me of the movie Elf, where Santa
yeah,
uses his engines and they have to get enough good cheer in order
yep,
for Santa's sleigh to fly. And I feel like that's kind of what's happening in the world. There's so many people who are really negative or scared or fearful. Rightly so, because there's been so much that's happened this year. We thought
yeah,
2020 was bad. Uh,
yeah.
2021 has had its fair share of issues too. And I'm hoping that 2022 is going to be shift things in a little bit more positive direction.
That's what I'm feeling.
Hmm.
I think we're almost through the worst of it, but it has been really difficult for so many people.
Hmm.
Every time I leave my house, I have people coming up to me, "What's going on?" And it's like,
Yes, you can't hide anymore. People are now asking you if you're channeling, if you're.
yeah, I can't hide anymore. My cover has been blown. Um, but it is interesting that it's coming from so many different people.
Mhm.
Um, and even on social media, people reach out to me and say, okay, what's going on? Why is the energy so weird? And I always tell everybody the same thing. It doesn't matter what's going on around you, it's what's going on inside of you.
Mhm.
So recenter yourself and ground yourself. And
Well,
then you can just write it out.
I think a really big piece of that too is as this energy is wonky and as we're going into kind of the holiday season for the next few weeks, really, how do you just slow down enough to even check in with yourself? Because we're
Yeah.
getting so inundated with so much and that rush to get everything finished and people traveling and just the anxiety that's getting put out into the world. I think it's really important to take a couple breaths and just center yourself and ask what's going on with you and
Yeah.
how much is you and how much of other people are you picking up?
Right.
I'll have to like, I have a technique when I'm feeling really overwhelmed that I kind of created where I imagine myself standing under a violet waterfall because violet's very purifying. And so, like, if I'm in a really stressful situation, I'll just go, okay, I need to go stand under my violet waterfall and I need a deluge of water to
Yeah.
wash away what's not mine. Sometimes it's little trickles, but lately it's been a deluge of like huge amounts of water to clear what's not mine. And then I notice that I start to feel better.
Yeah.
And I had to do that today. I had a phone call with a friend of mine who was just like dumping everything on me. And I'm like, hey, this isn't mine to take on, which is reminds me of the story of the taxi cab. There's a famous story about a taxi cab where they almost get in an accident. And he asks this cab driver, why didn't you yell or scream or something? And that's when he says, I learned the law of the garbage trucks. And that some people carry all their garbage and they're just looking for someone to dump it on. And he's like, I'm not willing to have that anymore. And I wasn't willing to be dumped on today either. So,
Good for you. So often I find that people will start dumping on me, and these days I just like, I just zone out, because they do it the same. It's the same exact conversation every time I speak with them. And after a point, you have to kind of go, okay, enough. I've heard this story. I even know how it ends, you know. And but this time of year, I've had to catch myself as okay, I need to be a little bit more open to hearing it right now because I know what this person's gone through.
mhm.
And sometimes as an empath, that gets really overwhelming because if I hear someone talk too much or too long about their own emotions, I start picking through them. What can I take away? And I've had to stop myself from that. So
Yeah,
for me, it's better, you know. Yeah.
sometimes this time of year when I go out in public, I feel like I need an energetic hazmat suit to just like walk into stores or something like that. Like
Yeah.
and I'm still doing my own grocery shopping and stuff like that. So I have to go to the store. And because of allergies and stuff, I have to go to several different grocery stores to get everything I need. But man, there are some days that I really want a hazmat suit.
Yeah.
And not like a real one, but an
Right.
energetic one that just protects me from when I walk in till when I walk out of the store.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think I've said this before. I sort of visualize like a hamster wheel, one of those clear balls that people put, and that's what I walk around in public in because it just gets overwhelming any time of year, but especially this time of year.
Yeah, it's just so interesting. And since we're talking so much about the holidays and things like that, one of the things we thought we could talk about with everybody are ceremonies and the
Mhm.
importance of ceremonies. Because I think like everyone makes New Year's resolutions and things like that, and then they get burned out with that like a couple weeks into it. But how do you do ceremony and create ceremony for yourself so that it has meaning in your life and that it's something that you want to continue to do?
The easiest way to start with a ceremony
Hmm.
is decide what you need.
Hmm.
Sometimes we do a basic ceremony around gratitude, and that's perfect anytime. But especially with more Native American related, even ancient Celt had very similar ceremonies. You want to be present.
Hmm.
You don't want to half-ass it. Excuse my French, but you don't want to do that. It has to be thoughtful and deliberate and loving and kind, and pick what calls to you.
Hmm.
Some people they go out and they collect branches or leaves this time of year. I know a lot of people who buy fake flowers if
Hmm.
it's a particular color or if it's a particular type of flower,
Hmm.
and they do their circle. You want to draw a circle around you to be protected. I think most people know to do a ring of salt around you, but in case you don't, just for double protection, call in your angels, call in your protection angels. Um, and just, table salt will work in a pinch. I've done many circles with table salt. It's fun. They don't care. And you do a circle around you. It doesn't have to be a large circle. It can just go around you, or you
Hmm.
can make it a little bit bigger. If you are called to have a drum or bells, a lot of people use bells, then
Hmm.
collect everything before you do your circle. A lot of times I've seen people start out and they cross their salt line to go get something else. If you do that, you're going to have to do another salt line because you've already broken the circle. The easiest thing to do is collect everything that you want in your ceremony and have it all there. Sometimes people use candles,
Hmm.
um, which are really good. Be conscious of fire.
Hmm.
Um, they have those fake candles now that flicker. Those are okay to use.
Hmm.
Since I nearly burnt my barn down several years ago, that's what I do. You just never know when that gust of wind is going to come and take everything away. Um, don't make it needlessly complicated. If you're not used to doing a ceremony, keep it simple. Go outside is preferable. If you can't go outside, your bathroom is a great space. Really, it is. Um, you can take a ceremonial bath, you can take a ceremonial shower, you can do a salt ring on the floor and sweep it up. I mean, don't complicate your life
Hmm.
and just sit in your circle and give thanks. Thank you. Thank you to those who were there before me,
Hmm.
our ancestors, or your family, or whatever it is you want to be grateful for, and let that be it.
I'm laughing because I'm one of those people who overcomplicates it. Like, it's just the way my brain works. And
Yeah,
I like to make crystal circles.
yeah.
I like to use my crystals and make a circle.
And that will work instead of salt. If you want to not have to sweep up salt, do that. I do most of my work outside,
Hmm.
so I don't care if there's salt on my ground. I really don't care.
Yeah.
But take into account where you are
Hmm.
and what's going to work for you. You don't need to be anything really elaborate. When you're calling in, if you're doing a ceremony to call in guides,
Hmm.
ancestors, um, I do a lot of work with the Native American energies that are where I live. Offer them something. In Celtic lore, it
Hmm.
was really common to offer a flower or piece of fruit. Um, a lot of people that I know in Ireland and Scotland use raisins.
Hmm. That's
And you
cool.
want do what?
I said, that's cool. I
Yeah,
hadn't heard
raisins.
that before. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just or oranges or whatever it is that you feel like gifting,
Hmm.
and it's your offering to these spirits. Now, if you're only working with your own angels and guides, you really don't have to. They would probably appreciate it, but you really don't have to. When I'm working with Native American spirits here, I offer here, we use mesquite because that's what they used. We
Hmm.
use some tobacco and we use lemongrass, cedar, those kinds of things that grow here.
Hmm.
If you're working with especially Native Americans and you live in, Northern California or Washington or, even Georgia, you're going to have different things that those tribes used. Do a little research and find out what that is. Because sometimes, and not all the time, but sometimes if you make an offering to someone and they're not accustomed to receiving it, they may not help you, or they may not be as inclined to help you as much as you're asking. So do a little bit of research, but don't overcomplicate it. You
It's
don't,
really funny because as we keep talking about this and talking about calling in guides, yeah, I have this
yep.
entourage now behind me. And I have these two very powerful Native Americans now, like standing guard behind me. They're like, you asked, we're here.
Yep.
So it's just really interesting, So you have to be aware of what you're doing and what you're calling in. And your intention behind it is key because you don't want to just, and we were talking about this a little bit before, you don't want to just open a portal that you don't know what to do with.
Please don't.
So.
Please don't.
Yeah, both of us have had experiences where we've had to close down portals that other people have opened. And I always think about it, as we were talking about this before the show, this scene from the Avengers where that portal opens up and all these like negative energies come in. And it's like you just have to be really careful. You can have the best intention, but you also have to have some education.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's one of the big things when I'm called for a paranormal event happening,
Mhm.
um, is people, usually teenage girls, nothing against teenage girls, but that's usually starts it, um, doing their own version of witchcraft.
Mhm.
And they will open a portal, probably accidentally. I want to hope that it's accidental, although I know that some of it's probably deliberate. And they don't realize what they've done.
Mhm.
And you'll have people standing, oh, that didn't work. That didn't, nothing happened. But it did.
Mhm.
And usually what happens, it might not happen that night, might be the next night. Usually it's the third night.
Mhm.
All hell breaks loose. And then they're going, whoa, what did I do?
Mhm.
Just don't do it. If you don't know how to open and close a portal, don't do anything. Just
It
don't.
makes me think about like when I was younger and Ouija boards.
Yeah. Oh, no.
I was always really scared of those.
Well, they're not a toy. And a lot of people have done a lot of damage with Ouija boards too.
Mhm.
But I don't know why I'm saying this, but somebody wants me to say it. If you are with a group of people and you've decided to do some kind of ceremony, if someone starts walking around waving their arms in a particular direction, don't stay. Um, and usually they tell me that when it's imminent that somebody's going to hear this and go, oh, wow, I was just about to do that. Don't. Portals are very, very real and they're nothing to play with. If you haven't had the training, you don't know what you're working with. And one of the things, I've spoken with someone who wrote a book about Wicca, and one of the things that she put in her book was about portals.
Mhm.
And I asked her, you left some things out.
Mhm.
And she said, well, I didn't really want to write down instructions on how to open one. So even if you think you've read some books and you know what you're doing, you know, you may have been more protected than you realize.
Yeah, I just, I think that with anything, the more education you have, even if you don't understand it, is helpful in these situations because I think people don't think enough about it and don't really know what they're doing. And as you said, all hell can break loose
Yeah,
and it can be a very difficult situation. And then if you don't know who to call or who can help you then clean it up, it's a difficult situation.
it's really bad, and people are paid a lot of money to make TV shows on this stuff. So,
Mhm.
and that's the other thing. While we're on the subject, please, 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 I beg of you, do not watch a paranormal TV show and then go out and try to do your own investigations. Please don't do that. Bad idea, very bad.
It's always interesting. We've had a couple people kind of try and sign on. I don't know if there's an issue with the feed today or not. So we can just keep going with questions, that we have and things that we want to talk about. So, um, I don't know. I also think one of the things that happens this time of year is that I oftentimes feel very melancholic. Like the holidays just bring up a lot,
Yes,
especially, with COVID and things like that. There's been so much loss. You
yeah,
can't help but think about that because there's been so many people who've lost their lives and stuff like that. So I guess the thing that I want to say is just to be kind and gentle to
yeah,
yourself. Now, there's a funny story about that phrase. When I was little, I had a great aunt who, in the family, she danced to the beat of her own drum and was not really understood by most of my family members. And I remember I was like 5 years old, and she would be like, just be kind and gentle with yourself and others. I'm like, who says that to a 5-year old? You know,
wise woman.
But, as you get older, you're like, she was really right because one of the things that we as humanity as a whole do not do really well with is being kind and gentle to ourselves.
No,
Also much better doing it to other with other people than we are with ourselves. And sometimes it needs to come from you first. before doing it for other people.
Right. Someone just talked to me. We need to go back to Ouija boards
Okay.
because someone is going to try and contact a loved one. And here's what you need to know. 9 times out of 10, who you bring through that board is not your loved one. If you
Mhm.
want to connect with your loved one, you have to come from your heart because they're always with you and you can always communicate with them. So, yeah, good. Okay.
And these days, there are so many people who do mediumships things that are very reasonable,
Yeah,
is to maybe go to somebody who knows how to do that and knows how to bring the entities forward and can give you proof that that's the person that you really want to talk to. And
right.
even if you don't have any money, sometimes just reaching out to a medium, I know I've done like really short readings for people who say, I don't have any money, and I can tell that they really need this information, and I'm not going to turn them away.
Yeah,
Now, that
I've
is
done
not
it
an
too.
open invitation for everyone who's watching this to come, because I know
Right.
the difference between who really needs it and who really can and cannot afford it. It's one of those gifts of being fairly intuitive. So, um, but there are some times where you do, I guess in other fields it would be called like pro bono work.
Right.
And even for myself, I do that often. Like if someone just has one question, I'm not going to make them sign up to have an entire reading with me.
Right.
Or I'll say, well, let's do a 15-minute reading, which makes it much more affordable or something like that. I always want to work with the person
Right.
because everybody's circumstances are different. And sometimes people desperately need to hear something, and that's why they're reaching out to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's
I,
that
I, I do a lot
compassionate
of
part
that.
again.
Yeah. 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 No, I do a lot of that too. Sometimes you have to be careful that you're not being taken advantage of.
Mhm.
Usually people are pretty good and they're easy to read too. So, there is that.
I
Someone,
know I do a lot of like free readings on my Facebook group. And so, yeah, the thing keeps trying to change numbers, but it's not showing that anyone, it's just the weirdest thing. It keeps flickering. And like someone I'll answer, I say I'll usually pick a card for people. Sometimes I'll pick two. And then like throughout the thing, they're like, well, can I have another card? I need to know about this. Can you tell me about this? No, that's called a reading.
yeah,
This is just kind of a taste for people to get some information. Well, and as we know, my nickname is the no nonsense intuitive. So that's the name I gave myself. No tricks, no gimmicks, just the truth. I don't sugarcoat things. If
mhm,
I need to give you a message, I'm just going to give you the message. So,
yep, yeah. I've had some people post some bad reviews sometimes when I was brutally honest, but then I ask, well, was I right? Well, yeah, but that one, so
but you weren't nice. I mean, it's not that I'm mean about it, but sometimes
right,
what happens is people, when you sugarcoat things or you kind of go around and around about it, they don't get the message that they need. So
right, right,
even when I'm like channeling someone's loved ones, I'm like, well, this is what I'm getting and this is what I'm feeling. I don't try and decipher it. Like, it's really weird. This song keeps going through my head, and this is the feeling that I have. And I get the feeling the person looked this way. And they're like, yes, that's all correct. But I'm not trying to go, well, this doesn't make sense to me. So let me think about how I can organize it and then give you the information. Sometimes
right.
it's just about whatever comes through, just give it to the person. It's up to them to figure out what to do with it.
Yep. Yep. That's usually the best way. I have somebody that apparently is watching somehow
Okay.
and asked a question. How do you know if who you're talking to is who you think you're talking to or if it's not?
So are we talking about loved ones? Are we talking about angels? Are we
I
talking
think
about,
she's talking about a loved one.
well, a
Um,
loved one, you can always ask for a sign to demonstrate that who it is. When you watch a lot of mediums, they'll say things that only that person could know when they're doing the reading. Because, Like, I'll give people information. I'm like, God, that was just so weird. And they're like, no, it was perfect. I'm like, no, it was weird on my end.
Right. Right. And sometimes, oh, see, this person had a bad entity coming through. She says, what if they tell you, you know who I am? Why don't you know who me?
Oh, and that's when I would say,
Bye-bye.
well, I always say before I'll call anybody in, I'm only allowing beings of love and light. And I'll say it 3 times because there's something about the power of 3. So if
Yeah,
you're still getting that, then it's not your loved one.
that's
When they
not,
tell you, you know who this is,
yeah,
no, that's not your loved one that's trying to talk with you.
no, no. I
'Cause they
would
want you
bring
to
that
know
forth.
that they want you to know they're there. They want you to know they're connecting. They're not gonna play a game with you and say, "Guess who I am?"
One of the things when we were talking about angels,
Mhm,
if you want to talk to an angel, um, it's a really, I was taught this when I was very young, and it's always worked for me. It's never let me down. You can say to that angel, and only the angel can hear you. You
mhm.
can set it out that way. I'm only speaking to this angel, this particular, give them a name, you know their name if you want to talk to them. And if it's really you, make my pinky itch, or you can associate any, yeah, see, they're doing it, anything you want, any sign you want. You can say, can you flicker the lights, or make me have goosebumps or something. And if you're only talking to that angel, every single time you call that angel, you will get that same thing. If you don't, it's not that angel. And
Okay,
I don't remember who taught me that, but it's always worked.
we have to go back to the Native Americans for a minute.
Figure that I saw feathers. Yeah.
They want us to talk a little bit about the earth and us all being stewards of the earth and taking care of the earth because we're not doing a really good job of it. And it changes how Native Americans get information. It changes how animals proceed in nature. And I remember when they were doing like sonar testing in the oceans, how it affected the whales and the dolphins and their ecosystems, you know, and how they couldn't ping where they were because of so I think that, we take a lot of things for granted, but I think it's about being really careful about what is your part? How can you contribute? How can you give back? You know?
I think there's a really easy way people can get back to the earth by
Mhm,
recognizing Mother Earth.
mhm,
It's we go through our lives and we just assume it's going to continue to be there. But sometimes it really does make you feel better to just say, hey, Mother Earth, thank you.
mhm,
You I'm gonna, you know, put water on you, or whatever it is that you can do. I have a habit, well, now my garden is put to bed, but in the spring and summer when I work my garden, I talk to the earth,
mhm,
you know, and I think when you're thinking about anything in a positive way and you're sending love to that, that's the best thing we can all do. And it's really simple. You
mhm.
know, every time my mountains, I know they're not called my mountains, but they are my mountains. We had a huge fire up there several years ago. And after the fire, I went up there and it just made me cry. And I ended up kneeling down in ash that was quite thick, going, I am so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And finally, a bird came down and landed right before me, in front of me on the ground, and started just chirping away at me like, shut up, you've said enough. And that was what I got from that bird. Okay, we know you've got it. Okay. And, but that was such a profound experience for me.
Mhm,
When I came home, I was different. I was somehow changed.
mhm,
And, that's probably why I'm probably going to die here. It just, everyone can take a minute
mhm.
and just send love to the earth. We've done a horrible job taking care of Mother Earth.
One of the things, and let me know how you feel about this. I don't know if we've ever talked about this, but one of the messages that I got a long time ago was we have covered so much of the earth with concrete that's not
Yep.
breathable.
Yep.
And if the earth can't breathe, and then I think about how many people have asthma and lung problems and things like that. If the earth that we live on can't breathe, how can we breathe?
Right. Right.
And that was never lost on me is that, we're creating some of these issues. We're creating some of this. How do we work on uncreating it?
Honestly, I think a lot of it is people need to realize money is not everything.
Hmm.
Um, look at in agriculture, look at the big agro companies.
Hmm.
And I think it was Jane Goodall. I just shared this post the other day, who said, however, did we think it was a good idea to grow our food with poisons? And that's what we've done. If it's going to kill a bee, eventually it's probably going to hurt you too. Um, it's it's all about how can we do this more without expending more energy, and how can I make more money off of this, the people buying the stuff that I grow. It's just we took a really bad left turn somewhere along the way as a society, especially in the US. We still, there are still companies where I live pouring Roundup on the ground that is known to be a carcinogen. At the same time, we have television commercials by attorneys saying if you've been injured by Roundup, we've got farmers, well, it's not farmers, it's corporate farms. The corporations have come in and bought a whole lot of family farms, and they don't care if they contaminate the water. They don't care if they contaminate the ground for any other crop. They just, spray Roundup everywhere and go home and watch the same commercials about have you been injured by Roundup. It really makes no sense to me.
It makes me think about Standing Rock, which has
Yeah.
been coming up a lot for me lately. The last 3 weeks, I don't know why that's being revisited, and just how your voice can make a difference. It's so many people are afraid to use their voice, afraid of consequences that are going to happen, that we become complacent and we don't do anything. And how do we start to change that as a culture, as a society? I'm not trying to be preachy, but it's messages that I've been getting a lot lately.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And that's another kind of ceremony, wrapping back around to that
mm,
we can all do. You can go out in your yard and plant something, or, make a rock garden if you're not a gardener, and just give back in some way and set your intention that I am showing the earth that I want to make a difference by this. And once you start doing those little things, um, you find that you start doing more.
mhm.
It just kind of a funny thing happens when you really start to care about something. Those are the people you attract into your lives. Those are the opportunities you attract in your life. It's really fascinating to me how that happens.
Mhm. Yeah, it's really interesting. There are people watching. I just don't know why we can't see any of them. So if you are watching, um, so I was trying to log on my phone and it's playing it back. If you're
Yeah.
watching, if you have either one of our cell phone numbers, just text us the question and we'll be happy to answer it. Seems to be a glitch with it
A
streaming
glitch
on.
in the matrix. Oh no.
It's funny. I was thinking a lot too. Next week, the movie Matrix Reload, Resurrect, whatever it's called, the new
Right.
Matrix movie is coming out. And I rarely get excited to see movies, but I'm super excited to see that movie.
Yeah. Yeah. The Matrix is an interesting thing. I saw the original movie in a theater with my ex and a couple of friends, and I was sitting there just glued to the theater screen.
Hmm.
And they're like, "Do you want something from?" I'm gonna go to the consent. I didn't hear anything. I they were. I heard nothing, And when it was over and we left, they were laughing at me because I had been so just, my intention was totally there. And my ex says, no, that's because that's what she sees all the time. And like it was very dismissive and it just always sat with me that, that would be a response. But yeah, I love the Matrix movies.
Yeah.
We,
I was just trying to see if we had any comments on Facebook, but we do not. So,
yeah, I
yeah,
don't.
so just interesting. And one of the things too, and circling back around to kind of how we started, is this holiday season, I just find this need to pull inward and not go outward.
Yeah,
Like a lot of times I'll like to be around people. Like I've been invited to go a couple places and things like that. And I'm like, this year for me, it's all about just pulling inward and having gratitude and just being thankful for everything that I have in my life right now.
yeah.
You know, as I just finished ordering my coworkers presents, but
Yes, but you did it online, so it's okay. I,
I
I,
did it online and I got them all something that I knew they would use.
right,
So it was a very purposeful present this year.
very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am usually, I sort of am like a bear. I kind of hibernate during the winter. The sun goes away, so do I. Um, that's probably why I so look forward to the solstice every year
Hmm.
because it's just like, yay, the sun's coming back, yay. Um, but this year has been particularly um, low key for me.
Hmm.
It's just really, really spending time inside my heart and just not not doing a lot. There's people around here that have Christmas parties, and the restaurant down at the corner is having a big, holiday meal like they always do. And I just don't. I do not feel very festive this year. Is really what it is, and that's not true either because I'm excited that the sun's coming back. So yeah, I have done a lot of inner journeying.
And for me, the message is, and everyone I know who's going to be watching this is going to crack up when I say this, is it's all about light.
Yeah,
And it's all, how do you bring light into the parts of your life that maybe you're struggling with a little bit? How do you find the hope in those areas? Because right now, I'll be honest, things look pretty bleak,
they
with
do.
us as a society and a world. And at the same time, there's always hope that we'll reach that. When I feel like we have collectively reached the tipping point, it's just taking a while for it to filter down. But I feel like we reached the tipping point a couple months ago, and now we just need to wait for everything to filter through and for the changes to really start happening. So it's just an interesting time to me.
It is. I think some of it, and what I've noticed talking with people is a lot of people are waking up, but they don't trust it.
Hmm.
There's people who tell me, well, I saw this and this happened and then this happened. What do you think that means? I think that means you're waking up, you're paying attention. And the universe, I've said it before, the universe is always talking to us.
Hmm.
We just have to be open to see those messages. And I think so many more people are open and seeing those messages and they just aren't trusting it yet.
Hmm.
And I wish them well. I hope they come on, let's get with the program here, but but
No, and I think that's part of the reason why we started this as well,
yeah.
is we wanted to help people who were interested and on the path to provide information that a lot of times people won't tell you. And because I
Right.
think it's really important to share what you know. It's not about keeping secrets and it's not about keeping it for yourself. I mean, we're all in this together and none of us get out of it alive. So, how do we make it the most tolerable? And one of the images that I always strikes it for me is that we're all on a holodeck together, like in a Star Trek movie. This is what we've created. How would we like to shift the creation? because we have the ability to do that now.
Yep. Yep.
So let's maybe go to a new holodeck and start over and create what we actually want to create and get out of some of the old paradigms that we've been stuck in for a really long time. And again,
Absolutely.
going back to bringing everything full circle, although we didn't talk about it today, we've talked about it. The third dimension during the fifth dimension. The third dimension is all about duality, good versus bad, right versus wrong,
Right.
evil versus light. But the fifth dimension is living from your heart space, and that there's enough for everybody and we're not in duality anymore. And so getting people to wake up to that is a really difficult thing.
It really is. And like I said, even the people who are waking up don't trust it.
Mhm,
And, what I tell people is calm down, don't 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 give yourself an anxiety attack because you're feeling things and you're seeing things. And in this particular person I'm thinking about, she's even hearing things,
mhm,
and it's just blowing her mind. And I've spent hours, literally hours, on the phone with her in the last week. Just, it's
mhm,
okay. No, you're not crazy. I promise you. If anyone would tell you you're crazy, it would be me. You're
mhm,
not crazy. And it's just, you have to be kind to yourself
mhm,
and maybe ask yourself questions. What is this trying to tell me?
mhm,
Take some deep breaths and cut yourself a break because it's not intended to be something that you stress over. It's intended for you to grow through.
mhm.
And you just have to give yourself some time. I promise it'll make sense. Well, maybe not complete sense, but it'll get better.
It gets
I'm still
easier.
trying to make sense. Yeah, it gets easier.
It's
Um,
easier.
so don't sweat it. Just go through it. What I found helpful for myself was, okay, this is freaking me out a little bit. Help me out here, because they hear you.
Mhm.
And if you ask for help, you have to ask. Maybe that's your stumbling block. You have to ask for
Mhm.
help. You'll get it. You'll get it. It'll be okay. Promise, we're not going to lock you up.
Anything that you want to say? Looks like someone was finally able to get through. Um, Anything you want to say to kind of wrap up a little bit, or
We've not gone as far flung this show as we have in the past, but I would like to really encourage everybody, do some kind of a ceremony on the solstice. If it's just sending love into the universe, or sending love to the earth, or just sitting on your couch, light a candle on the coffee table and meditate for a few minutes, really embrace the light returning
Mhm.
from me. Thank you.
All right, everybody, have a great week. We will be back next week and we will see you all then. Take care.
Bye.